So Yolanda, the floor is yours now. You can share your screen. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you please zoom in a little bit?
Zoom in. Is it okay?
Make it maybe 150. Okay, that's fine then. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So, welcome everybody once more. And today we are going to talk about writing functions and loops in Python. Yeah. So first, we need to know that Python has so many built-in functions. And the most popular of it is what we call the print function. Print function. Aside the print function, there are several other functions where one needs to write in order to solve his or own problem. And these kind of functions are what we call user-defined functions. Okay, so at this point, some people will say, actually, what is a function? How important is it? And how do I even create one? So let's dive deep into the question of what a function is. A function can literally be seen as a machine that takes in inputs, sets of inputs, processes them, and then produces some output. So an easy example can be seen like a function which one uses where it takes in as inputs the height and the weight, and then produces the body mass index, also known as the BMI. So as we earlier mentioned the print function, we are now going to see how it actually works. In the following examples, we are going to illustrate the functioning of the print function. So here, my input that I give into the print function is, I love women promoting science to the younger generation. And when I use the print function in it actually prints whatever I've given it as input. So when I run this code, I have this first statement, I love women promoting science to the younger generation. Then the second one is, I'm asking the print function to print 3 plus 5, but surprisingly, it is giving out the output 8. So one can be asking his or herself, why is it that in the first statement, I asked print to print, I love women promoting science to the younger generation, and it did it so perfectly, but in the second case, it printed 8. So please think about it, and then we are going to talk about it in the tutorial sessions. Great. Now we go to what are some reasons why do we even need functions? So the first reason is creating functions gives you an opportunity to name groups of statements, making your program easier to read, to understand, and to debug. The second reason why functions are so important is that functions make your program smaller by eliminating repetitive codes. In this way, a small change in the program can only be made at a specific place rather than going through all the program and updating every single thing. So the last important reason why we need functions is that dividing a long program into functions allows you to debug different parts one at a time, and then assembling these small programs into a single workable unit, which is very important. When you have long pieces of code, maybe 1,000 lines or 2,000 lines, you really need functions in order to automate it. Great. Now, we go straight to how to create a function. We create function using def statements. So here we have def statements. So this is how the syntax goes. We first have the def keyword, which is very important, this def keyword, followed by the name of the function. Then you open the parentheses, and then you input the arguments that you want your function to have. You close your parentheses, and you end it with a colon. So let me go back again. So you have the keyword def, then you have the name of the function, which is very important, and you add in the arguments, your function needs, and you end it with a colon. Then inside the body of the function, you have what we call the docstring. This is the docstring. And this docstring is very important because it actually helps you to comment what your function does, and it will help people who later on come and use your program to better understand what it's doing. So let's imagine that you are working on something and then you need to use the same program maybe 6 months later. If you didn't tell exactly what your function does, it may be difficult for you to catch up with everything. And after you do your docstring, you now go into the body of the function. This is very important because here you actually put the codes which will implement what this function is doing. The first thing to note here is that in naming the function, we should make sure that this name doesn't clash with the existing built-in functions in Python. Okay, great. In order to better understand how to define a function, we will take some quick examples. The first example is we're going to print a simple hello message here. Now, what is my message that I want to convey, and who is the person supposed to receive the message? Here I have my message, which is a variable, and the variable my message has the welcoming message, which is welcome to the introductory Python course offered by Women Promoting Science in the Younger Generation. We are happy to see you. Then who is this message destined to? We have the message is destined to my name, and my name here, it is friends. My name is a variable and it has the value friends. You can actually change these friends. You can add your name, the name of your boyfriend, your girlfriend, anybody that you love. You can add it here. So how do I define my function? I use my def keyword followed by the name of my function, and then I add in the parameters of my function. Here, the parameters of my function are name and message. And what does my function do? It uses the print function again to print the hello together with the name of the person the message is destined to and the message that is being conveyed. So this is what the function is supposed to do. And then how do I call my function? So when I use intro together with my name, together with the person my name and the message my message, when you run this piece of code, you have the output, hello friends, welcome to the introductory Python course offered by Women Promoting Science in the Younger Generation. We are happy to see you. Great. Let's go on to another example of how to define a function. So we were looking at the fun cooking recipe. For our recipe, we need the ingredients, and this B, as we saw earlier, is what we call a list. This list, named B, contains ingredients we need for our recipe, for our cooking recipe. So it contains oil, onions, salt, eggs, and bread. Now, I define my function using the def keyword again, and the name of my function is cooking recipe. It takes the argument A. Then what does this function do? It is inside here, the body. And it should be noted that every single code in Python must be indented. So when you define your function, the block of statement that comes just under it must be indented for your function, for your code to run. Here, I still call my function cooking recipe B like this. And when I run this code, I have put oil in a hot frying pan and add a mixture of whipped onions, salt, and eggs, and let it sit for a few minutes. If the omelet has cooked to your taste, enjoy it with French bread and a cup of hot chocolate. Yummy. So that is our fun cooking recipe. Another important thing to note is that we can define a function using the return statement. So what does the return statement do? The return statement you can store the value that you have in a variable, or you use it in whatever way the user wants to use it. So we better appreciate the usefulness of this return statement using some examples. So we have the first example. Here, we are defining a function that adds any two numbers. We see use a def keyword together with the name of the function, which is add, and it takes in the parameters x and y. Here, I just return the sum of x plus y. So when I call the function add to 3, what I'm expecting is that it's supposed to add 2 to 3. And when I run this code, the output is 5, as we can see here. Also, we might want to save the value of the function of whatever the function has returned into a variable. So when I call the function add 3.14 and 5, I assign the value returned by this function in a variable name called addition. So now when I print this, I want to print the sum of 3.14 and 5. And I use this print statement. The sum of 3.14 and 5 is addition. So when I run this code, it takes the value of addition and actually inserts it in this print statement. So this is the output you have when you run this piece of code. The sum of 3.14 and 5 is 8.14. So one can be wondering, what even happens if we want to add 2 strings? So I can use the same function add that I defined above, together with the input values hard and beat. When I run this code, I see have hard beat. So it means that we can still use the same function to deal with beats other than inputs, other than ints or floats. Great. Now we want to go into a slightly more complicated example, which is we would want to define a function that actually checks whether a number is even or odd. So this is it. I'm commenting. I say, this function is going to check whether the number is even or odd. Now I still use my same keyword, which is def. I add the name of my function, which is even, and it takes the parameter num. So the first thing is that it checks if number modulo 2 is equal to 0, print the number is even. Else, print the number is not even. So this is it. When I run this code on sample numbers like 320, I check, is 320 even? So this line of code in plain English means, is 320 even? If it is the case, they write, yeah, the number 320 is even. And I ask another question, is 11 even? If 11 is not even, you say, oh no, the number 11 is not even. Fantastic. So now, at this point, I'm sure some people might be asking, what is this if statement? What is this else? I don't know, where does it come? So it is, don't worry, here we're directly going to dive on with if statements. So an if statement, this is what we call, they allow the conditional execution of a code. For example, we have, I take my variable name A and I assign the value 5 to it. Now, a question I can ask is A greater than 0? If this condition evaluates to true, then I'm going to print the number is positive. So when I run this code with the value 5 assigned to the variable A, I have that, yeah, the number is positive. The second way of using the if statement, you can use the if statement together with an else condition. And this condition only evaluates if the condition on the if statement is wrong. So let's see this example. I have, oh, okay. Please, can you see my screen? Okay, great. So I have, if, okay, now I assign the value -5 to the variable A. Now I check, if A is greater than 0, print A is positive. Else, you print A is not positive. That is either 0 or negative. Now, I ask the same question. Given that A has a value -5, I run this code now to see. When I run this code, I have A is not positive. That is, it's either 0 or it is negative. Another way of using the if statement is that you can use the if statement together with elif clause. The elif clause is just a contraction of else and if, and it allows you to check several possibilities. So in this example, I still take the same variable name A, but then I update its value. Its value now is 0. Now I can ask another condition. Another question is this variable a equal to 0? If it is the case, print a is 0. Else, if a is not equal to 0, but is rather negative, you print a is negative. Else, print a is positive. So this piece of code means that this else clause is going to execute only when the if and the elif statement above, the condition on the if and the elif statement above are not true. So when I run this code, I have a is 0, which is true because I actually assigned 0 to the variable a. Okay, great. Now we are going to the second part of this presentation, which is about loops. In Python, there are two types of loops. We have the for loop and the while loop. Okay, first we have a look at the for loop. The for loop is a programming concept which, when implemented, executes a piece of code over and over for a certain number of times based on a sequence. Here, this sequence can be a list, a tuple, a dictionary, and the loop will loop through all of this sequence until it reaches the last variables or the last values inside the given sequence. So let's see the following examples. Here, I have a list name called even, which contains even numbers from 2 to 12. So that is it. So the idea behind this code is that I want to loop through this list and then print all the values inside the list even. So when I run this code, it actually does what I want. It prints 2, 4, 6, up to 12. Another fun way of using the for loop is that we can use it with yet another inbuilt function, which is the range function. Here, the range function, how does it operate? Here I have the range function. It takes the parameters n. When you write range n, what does it mean? It generates a set of whole numbers starting from 0 to n minus 1. So when I use this range function in the for loop, this is what I have. I have this example for num in range 5, print num. So the idea here is that it's supposed to print all numbers which are less than 5, but not including 5. So this is it. And when I run this code, I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is actually what I want. Secondly, you can use range by indicating the start and the stop of your iteration. So when I use range start stop, it generates a set of whole numbers starting from start to stop minus 1. For example, let's see this piece of code. I have for num in range 2, 7. The idea here is that it's supposed to print all the numbers from 2 to 7, not including 7. So when I run this piece of code, I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is exactly what I wanted. The last way of using the range function is that you can use the range function by precising the start, the stop, and together with the step size. So here, it generates the number having the difference of step size. So in this example, I want a code that prints odd numbers up to a certain level. So in this for loop, I have for num in range 1, 14, 2. So the idea is that I'm supposed to print odd numbers starting from 1 to 14, but not including 14. And the difference between the numbers should be of size 2. So when I run this for loop, when I run this for loop, I actually have 1, 3, 5, 7 up to 13, which is, it prints the first 13 odd numbers. Great. Now we go to the format of writing a for loop. To write a for loop, you need to know the two keywords must be present in it. We have the keyword for and the keyword in. And then this variable is any variable name that you want. And this iterable is any sequence. This iterable can be a list, can be the range function that we saw, can be a tuple, can be anything which can be iterated. And just after this, in the piece of code that is just below the for loop, is a block of code which is indented. We shouldn't forget about that. So to see how the for loop works, we look at these examples. First, we have another list, but this list is a list of WPSYG members. And the list contains the first member, which is Suka, and the last element, which is Deborah. So the idea behind this piece of code is that it's supposed to look through this list of members, and then it prints all the members from the first to the last member. And when I run this piece of code, it is actually what I have. I have Suka, Bernard, Yolande, Faith, up to Deborah, which is great. Then in the second way too, I have, in the second example here, I have a list of words. And this list of words contains the word cool, readable, powerful. So the idea behind this code is just the same as the one before, but then we are adding one more condition to it in this for loop. So we are looping through all the words in the list of words here, but then we check if word is equal to word.upper, print. None of these words are capitalized, else print Python is cool, readable, powerful. So when I run this piece of code, it first checks it picks every word inside here and it checks, is this word capitalized? If it's not capitalized, then it goes on to print the else statement here. So this piece of code actually shows that we can use the if-else clause inside a for loop. And when you run this, you appreciate the output. You say Python is cool, Python is readable, Python is powerful. And then we again use another built-in function, which is upper. So what does upper do? Upper, it converts all lowercase characters to uppercase. And if no lowercase character exists, it returns the original string. Great. Now, one needs to understand that not everything in Python can be iterable, can be an iterable. So for example, we see that integers, float, and some built-in functions are not iterable because we cannot use them in any iteration. So we look at this example here. Oh, sorry guys, I have this big issue with my platform. David, please, can you share your screen and I just continue with yours? My PC is going crazy.
Okay, sure. Can you see?
Yes, please. So where was I? I think I was in iterables. No, just down.
Here.
Yes, great. So you see that when you see that we have iter 3.1, iter 42, iter len. When you run this code, it actually prints an error message. This error message just shows us that the int, the float, and the len function cannot be iterated. Please pull down. Okay, so now we need to appreciate that the for loop can also be used together with an else clause attached to it. So in this example, we have yet another list, and this list is called languages. It contains some of the programming languages that we have around. We have R, C++, Java, and Python. So we use the for loop to index all the elements inside the list of languages, and then This else block will only be executed only when all the elements in the list of languages uh, has been has been printed out. So when you run this piece of code, you have programming language R, C++, Java, Python, and then loop execution is complete. So this output loop execution is complete. It's only printed when it has looped through all the elements of the list of languages. Please go down. Okay, in the example, we also saw that that for loop contains another built-in function, which is the len. So this len function, what does it do? It returns the number of items in an object. In the previous tutorial, some of the questions made use of the built-in function len. So we just see how powerful this thing is. Now we are now going to the last part of our presentation, which is on while loops. A while loop executes a piece of code over and over while a given condition still holds true. Now we go into the syntax of the while loop. The while loop is so familiar to that of the for loop. The first thing we have in mind is that we have the keyword while together with the condition which you want the while loop to act upon. After this condition, we still have a loop of the body, or the body of the loop, sorry. We have the body of the loop, which contains block of statements. And this block of statements, which are indented, are executed repeatedly until the condition holds, the condition in the while statement holds, is no longer true. So in the example below, we are initializing the input variable num to 0, and then we are checking the condition. But the idea behind the code is that we want to print the message, thank you for joining WPSYG 3 times. So the condition is that we have while the number of times we want to print it is less than 3, given that the number has been assigned to 0. So it's going to print 0, 1, 2. So inside the loop, it checks the condition. Why 0 is less than 3, print the message, thank you for joining WPSYG. And then it increments the number by 1. When it increments the number by 1, the number now becomes 1. It checks again, is 1 less than 3? If 1 is less than 3, it prints, thank you for joining WPSYG. And it goes again and increments the number to 2. So 1 plus 1 becomes 2. It will go on like this until the condition goes to be false. And then you have the output, thank you for joining WPSYG 3 times. In the second example, we want to show that we can also use, just like the for loop, we can also use the while loop together with an else block. Here, we are using the same variable num, and we are assigning the number 16 to it. So we are checking again. Okay, the idea is that we want to check, is 16 greater than 10? If it is true, it prints the number and then it subtracts 2 from it. When it subtracts 2 from it, checks again. As this is the number that I subtracted 2 from is still greater than 10. If it is the case, it will print the number and go on to subtract 2 until the condition holds to be false. And when it holds to be false, it now breaks out of the loop and prints loop execution has ended. So when you run this code, you have 16, 14, 12, and then loop execution has ended. This is it. Okay, so now thank you so much for listening. I hope you've learned something. We're now going to dive straight into the exercises. So Debbie, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Yolande, for the beautiful presentation on writing functions and loops. So I guess we learned something. So let's try the exercises to see if we can do this by ourselves. So the first question is that we should write a function that takes two numbers and returns their sum. Write a function that takes two numbers and returns their sum. How do we go about this? Let me open my charts. Okay. Any idea? We want to write a function that will first take two inputs. Okay. Progress says I should write def sum, oh sorry, def sum, progress. If I use the sum, you can see already Python is giving me the option of sum. So it's a keyword, and like Yolande was presenting and mentioned that we should try to do away with keywords in Python as well. So maybe I would go with na adocos add. So let's say add x and y. Okay, then we should do what? Retain x plus y. All right. So maybe we can try this to see if this function is well written. So let's say we give it 10 and probably 20. Okay, so it adds that 30. Yeah. So you are all right. Progress, Gloria, you're all right with your answers as well. You can try them on your individual laptops too as well. So the next question is, we should define a function that calculates the cube of a given number. How do we go about this? We should write a function that calculates the cube of a given number. So if we give it 2, the cube of 2 is that it means like 2 times 2 times 2, which is 3. So, sorry, which is 8. I'm sorry. So, how do we write this? Okay, progress says def cube 1. Then inside, is this how you want us to do it? A that. Is that what you want? And what do we return, progress? What do we return? Maybe if you can type. What do we return? Okay, let me run it and we'll see if we'll get it right first. Okay, invalid syntax. So progress, if you could come again. A function that calculates the cube of a given number. Anyone with an idea? Just cube L. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean to say, Edmond. So now says cube A. Okay, I should do cube A. Then I return A by A by A. Okay, let's try. There's no harm in trying. So let's say that we define this A is now, let's say it's 2. Let's see what happens. Okay, we got it as 8. All right, so now says we define it as A times A times A. But now, so in the case where we have, probably we wanted the 10th of a number, should we sit and be doing A by A by A like 10 times? Is that what we would have to do? So I guess maybe in that case, the best approach would be to go with the Python, this, okay, with, who said this? I think someone, Gloria, what Gloria says, return, then you just use the square, like the square root, square of 3. So like we learned this in the beginning that this means like raise to the power, right? So if we have A, raise the power then 3, so that if we want it as raise the power 10 to, we can have it easily and it's more efficient. So we go that way. Okay. All right, great. So that answers that too as well. You could name these things differently and work in your own, at your own time. The next question says, we should write a function, which is func1, and then it takes this such that it can accept a variable length of argument and print all arguments values. Okay, so it's like in the previous examples where we gave it this number of length of arguments, like the arguments, just one argument. In this case, we want that we write a function such that if I decide to write this and decide to put A, B, C, the function should work. If someone decides to put only one argument, it should still work. So how do we do this? I don't know if you understand the question. We want to write a function such that the user will determine how many length of arguments should go into the function. And then it will print out all the arguments values. So we don't want a case where the user, we specify the user to enter only two arguments, like A, B, there's just two arguments. Okay, he says this arg, this, okay, let's try. And then we are supposed to, okay. I think you should progress, always add your return. What do you want us to return? Always add what exactly you want us to return. Okay, let me try BJ's own because progress, you've not included what you want us to return. So I'm using that of BJ. BJ, you say lists. Then I should have for item in lists. Okay, so this again, like I said, it's a bad naming because this list is a keyword in Python. So I'm just adding a subscript. Okay, BJ. Then we said print item, that's what you want, right? So you are given this list now as what? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, this works, great. So does this solve our problem? Because right now what you have done is actually just taking one argument. BJ, how about if I want now a different user wants to add, let's say another argument, let's say 3, 5, 6. What happens? It throws an error. Okay, you don't know, you're just trying. Yeah, so I think what Progress said was almost like he almost got the, or he or she almost got the answer. So you just have to add the star here. That will tell Python that it can take several inputs, right? It shouldn't just be one value that the Python function can take. It can take actually several values. Okay. Okay, you're a he. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. So now we want to print this, right? Sorry. So if we give this, can it print all? Yeah. So for instance, now we just add this and then we know that, okay, we want to loop through for item. This item here, like Yolanda already explained, it's just a name we give to it. We could actually name this I and then change here to I as well. And also change here to I. You can name it whatever value name you want. You can name it WPSYG, right? WPSYG. Then come here and call it to as WPSYG. It all depends on us and what we want. But then just the only difference for this particular function is that when you add the star, we want to ensure that the user can enter as many arguments as he or she wants. We don't limit the person. Unlike if we don't add this, we remove that star and we have just this, then we're going to have an error because they tell us that the function takes one positional argument, but two were given, which is right. We just put the name here at, but we've given it two different values. But in the case where we want it to be able to accept different arguments, then we can add the star and then that works for us. Are there any questions, please? You got an error. Can you write, BJ, can you write exactly what you did? Okay, you gave this. Let's see what the error is so we can debug together. Okay. Oops, I couldn't copy this. Okay. Yeah, okay, I see why you're getting an error. Okay, you're getting an error because here, the error says name A is not defined. If you remember, when we're dealing with these variable names, we look at something called strings. So if you want Python to know this without you defining that A is equal to a particular value, then that means that you have to put these, around this, right? Because Python doesn't know what your A is, it doesn't know what your B is. Yeah, so that's the reason. Okay, great. All right, so if there are no questions for this particular example, then we move to the next. Can I move to the next then? Progress, BJ, nah. Can we move to the next? Edmond, Gloria, can we move to the next? Okay, awesome. So the next question says that we should create a function show employee in such a way that it should accept employee name and its salary and display both. And if the salary is missing in function call, it should show it as 9,000. So what Python is asking us to do here is that, just to explain the question, we want to write a function, and the function should be called this. This is the name of the function, show employee. And that it should take two arguments, the employee name and then the employee salary. Okay, so that function will always take your name and your salary, and it should display both. So it should end up displaying the employee's name and the employee's salary. So it takes those inputs and display, this is the name, this is the salary. Okay, you don't understand? Progress, are you making regards to the previous example or this particular one? I'm not sure if the previous, okay, this. All right, so let's assume you print the individual numbers in the list. I still don't get what he means. So like I do away with this ones, this way. Ah, okay. If this is a list, you mean this is a list now, I want to print what is also inside this list. I think you have to go through another for loop. So you can go through for I in now this time around, this you know is a list because this WPSYG is giving us this whole list, right? So for I in this, then we can print I now, right? Let's see. I don't know if this answers your questions, question progress. So if you want the list, so now we know that this argument is taking a list. So you want it to take the list in this whole value is called our arg now, but it's a list. And you want it to print the values inside each of these. So that is why we are making another for loop. So this first for loop is just the one that is doing for the whole of this list. Then the second loop is now inside this list and trying to print each value in this list. I don't know. Okay, that answers your question. All right, great. Okay, so BJ, yeah, we're back to the other example. So could we pass a dictionary, which is a dict for employee 9,000 and print it? Could we pass a dictionary, which is, I don't understand the question. What exactly? Can you write it like in Python? How you want to you think like how you're thinking about it? Can you just write like a Python function in which you how you want this to be like? As BJ is doing it, I hope the rest of us kind of understand. So first of all, we want to write a function, def, that does what? This is the name of the function, show employee, right? And then inside this show employee, we want that it should accept the employee name. So we have, maybe let me name it employee name, right? Employee name here. Then it should accept the salary of the employee as well. Okay. But then we want a case that it should display both, and And if the salary is missing, so first of all, let's try to display both. If we want to display the both, so we can say it should retain the employee name, and why do I copy it as this? Okay. The employee name and then the salary of the employee. But they are saying if this person, so let's try this and see. Sometimes you work step by step, right? Okay, so let's do this. The employee name, let's say, is WPSYG, and the salary of the person, we say 1,000. What happens? It returns the name and 1,000. But they're saying if the salary is missing in the function call, it should show 9,000. So let's say that you don't enter the 9,000 for this person and you leave. So this is only the employee name. You've not given a value for the salary. Let's see what Python tells us. Oh, Python tells us that the employee is missing one required positional argument, which is salary. So what they also want us to do is that we want that if the salary is missing in the function call, it should show 9,000. So the simple thing we can do is just to, in salary, in writing your function where salary is, you equate it to 9,000. So that in the events where the person doesn't enter the salary, Python would still be able to return salary as 9,000. So let's run this and see if it will work. Good, this works. How about in the case where we now specify our own salary as 2,000? Then it gives us 2,000. But when we don't specify, then it gives us 9,000. So this answers the question. So now let's look at Progress. Okay, Progress has a different way in which he wrote his function. He says def show employee. Okay, employee name. Okay, yes, his name and salary. Okay, then he says name is equal to, we should input, then please enter name. Okay, then salary, he says we should say input. I'm just using what someone has written so that we try and see if it will work. And I mean, sometimes there are always so many ways of doing a problem. So this is all you want, right? Progress. So the name, let me name it as progress actually. Okay, then the salary, let's say 1,000. What happens? Okay, please enter name. So the name we want is progress. Okay, and the salary we want, let's say, is 1,000. Okay, progress, is this what we actually want? I mean, what we want is that the employee should be able to, the function should be able to retain the name of the person and the person's salary. But now we just have the option to enter the person's name and salary, that's it. So this does not solve our problem per se. This is it's a function, yes, but it doesn't solve the problem exactly that we want. Okay, so we can just leave this as it is. So you enter the salary here and then the name, basically. Okay, so let's do the last question on define a function that displays and counts the vowels in the following sentence. Today is a beautiful sunny day. I hope it will not rain. Okay, this is a bit tougher, but then I guess you guys are so good, you'll be able to think about how to go about it. So we want that today is a beautiful sunny day. I hope it will not rain. So vowels, we know vowels. Let me say vowels are, in English vowels, they are A. These are the English vowels. E, I, O, and U. These are the English vowels. Okay, so we want that this sentence where we have today is a beautiful sunny day, I hope it will not rain. We want that the function should what? Display this text and then counts vowels that are in the text. So for instance, it will count O because O is a vowel, count A because A is a vowel, do same for I. So it will count all of these and then return the number of vowels you have. Is there anyone who can think about how to go about this? And I've given you the vowels in English, so let's use that. Isaac, you're saying with respect to the previous question, can you decide to use any of the condition statements? Yeah, I think, but in this case, yeah, I think you can, but it would not be the best, because maybe what you have to do now is that you probably be saying something like, okay, let me do it here. You probably saying define this show employee, right? So you're saying, maybe let's say we give the name, we don't give the salary. So maybe we say if, I don't know how it would actually even be. If salary is less than this, or if salary is not, it's not in in the function, but how would that be like? So what kind of condition will we talk about? Is it on the function? So like where would we put the condition? Like Isaac, where exactly do you want us to put the condition? Isaac, I'm going to unmute you so you can talk, and then we know exactly where you want us to unmute. Sorry, where you want us to. Okay, I've unmuted you, Isaac. Can you speak? Ah, you have no idea. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Because I was just wondering, because in our case, if it was that the salary will assume a particular value. If it is less than a stated value, then fine. Okay, so what they saying, we make it a salary. Okay, salary is equal to none. Then we say if salary is none, okay, yeah, salary should be equal to 9,000. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Then return the name, then salary. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, that makes sense. So maybe let's say we leave it as none. We give here WVSYG now. Okay, so it takes it at 9,000. Let's say we give it now 1,000. Okay, so I think that if salary is none, then this return should actually be here. Yeah, it should be here. Yeah, good. So the idea is that show employee the name, then you say that the salary is equal to none. None here is a Python keyword, okay? So we are saying that if the salary is none, that means you don't put anything for salary. That's what it means. None just means none in English, none, there's nothing, right? So if the salary is none, then you want to define the salary to be equal to 9,000, because that's what we want. So if that condition happens, you just define as this, and then you retain the name and salary. Otherwise, it doesn't do, it just takes what value you give to it as a salary here. And so that's why when I call the function show employee, and I gave it its name, which is WPSYG, and its salary, we defined it as none, and we ran, we got salary equals to 9,000 here, 9,000. So if we decide that, okay, we want to make the salary 2,000, then it changes this to 2,000. It doesn't give us the 9,000, because now salary is not none. There's a value there. So that's how we can use the if to. So I hope your problem has been resolved, Isaac. Thanks to Sewadi. Okay, Solomon is saying that you can also do if not salary. If not, so if not salary, we should do what? Okay. Is this what you asking for, Solomon? Okay, so guys, we got to wrap up to a bit. We've actually spent more time than planned. So here is the define a function that display and count vowels in the following sentence. Today is a beautiful sunny day. So I will give you the idea as to how to go about this. So first of all, okay, we have the solution here actually. So first of all, what you can do is that you first can define vowels and then give it the sentence. Okay, come in. Okay, so you can define vowels here and then give it the sentence. And the sentence we want is today is a beautiful sunny day. I hope it will not rain. Okay, then defining normal, you have to add this column here. Then the idea here is to use sentence dot lower so that it can change all the sentences where you have capital, like capital T, capital I, it will change all to lower cases. Okay, that's what this would first do. Then we initialize a count. So we initialize that count should be equal to 0. And then we know what vowels are, right? So we can name all our vowels as a tuple and name it as vowel sets. Okay, so this contains all the vowels. Then what we do next is to loop through this sentence now, which is having all the lower cases of this. So we loop through for I in this sentence. So in this, today is a beautiful sunny day. We want that it should check this I. So it will first take T, small t, okay? If T in vowel set, so if this T is in this set, then it should increase the counts here by 1. Okay, otherwise it just goes, Python just continues, it doesn't do anything. So first of all, it will take T. Is T in this set? If it is not, count is still 0. It goes to O. Is O in this set? Yes, O is in this set. O is here. Then it increases this count plus 1. So now this is 1. Then it goes to the next, D. Is D in this vowel set? It's not in this vowel set. So it ignores and goes to the next value. A. Is A in the set? Yes, A is in the set. So it increased the counts plus 1. So it will do that and go through all of the small words in here. And then all the ones that are here, if there's an alphabet that is in the vowel set, it increased the counts by 1. And then at the end of it, we'll return the sentence we want and then the total counts by then. So counts. So let's run this and see what we get. So today is a beautiful sunny day. I hope it will not rain. Then it returns 19. So we can actually try with another simple example. Let's say we say women promoting science to the younger generation. Okay, so let's say we give this to Python, the sentence now. And run this. It gives us the count as 18. How about if we can use a very shorter example where we can count the number of vowels in it so that we see whether it's actually working. Here we have O and E as the only vowels, so there are 2. Let's see if Python will be able to get that. There are 2 vowels. Good, it returns 2. Yeah, so basically, this is, are there any questions first? I don't know if there are any questions. Okay, so we've added some more. So all of these exercises always have the solution. So you can just double click and the solution will be here. You can copy it and then run it on your own, or you can try to solve before you check the solution. We've added additional exercises. Since sentence has been defined, what's the essence of recalling it? It has been defined like here, sentence equals to woman or one exactly. We could actually just remove all of this, okay? So that we don't say sentence is equal to this, we just leave it this. Okay, okay, so maybe I can unmute you progress then. I think maybe that's another faster way. Okay, Progress, you can unmute yourself. I don't know if that's what answers your question.
Hello, good day. Oh.
Yeah, good day, Progress.
Okay, just a quick one. I was thinking since we've already have this definition vowels and then we now have sentence which we now give some strings, and then we now came back to when we after returning the function. I want to call a function. We now say there was a time when we had something like sentence and then. So
Yeah,
I was thinking since we've already defined it from the onset, there is no need calling it here,
yeah, yeah,
like trying to repeat it. So
yeah.
it's kind of confusing.
Yes, yes, yes. You're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah. So that's why I've just changed this now to make it sentence. It should take sentence. Now you would give it the sentence, then it would do whatever you want. Instead of
Okay,
saying
that's
sentence is equal to that, you know. So yeah, you're right. So the question Progress is asking was that initially we made something like this, women, and then we come back again when we want to call this function, then we have something like this. I mean, it's like you've already defined that this sentence is equal to woman. So there's no need coming again to say sentence again equal to woman, because you've already defined that the sentence is equal to woman. So if we decide that, okay, we're calling sentence, oops, did I spell it wrong? Okay, sentence is equal to. Okay, so we had initially defined that this sentence is equal to woman. Then we come back again and call sentence is equal to woman. It didn't make sense. So it's actually better we could do this. Give this is a sentence. So the user would put the sentence. So here, for instance, we don't have the sentence again. We just have woman. Then that's it. It still works as we want. So I think someone also had a question. Yeah. So you see, so okay, let me do this for you. So print, let me do this. Print sentence before, then I give it sentence, okay? Then after we apply the lower, we do print sentence after, okay? So that we see the differences. Why is this thing not copying as I want? Okay, good. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here, I'm printing the sentence. Immediately you give the sentence, I want us to print it before and see how the sentence is. And then we check sentence and then we check the lower, the sentence after we give it to, and see what happens. Okay, so you see sentence before is woman and sentence after you have all small letters, woman now. So that's basically the difference. Okay, yeah, so I think this is about it. You can later on check the remaining exercises on your own, and you can email any of the TAs. So what I did was to, in the email I shared with you all, I copied the tutors, so you can just see their names and then email any of them if you have any challenge, or you can reach out to us on our social media handle. So maybe it'll be good if you can take a picture at least for day one. I don't know, so maybe you guys could put on your cameras, then we can take a picture just for day one. Yeah. Hi. We have like three, so I have to take them in bits because we have like three. So I'm on the first page. On the first page, I have Salome, Na, Benny, Ben B, your camera is off or you don't want to put it on. Allah, BJ, Juan, Toyesi, Isaac, Na, Faith, your cameras are off. So maybe we can say hi, something. You can put anything like smile, handshake, yay. Yes. so I got the shot for the first. The second lists, okay, Smile, Solomon, Albert, everyone else. So nice to see your faces. Okay, yeah, I got the shot. So yeah, so later we'll also send a feedback form just to have your feedbacks for future events as well. So, but then we'll see you tomorrow if there's no other. And I hope tomorrow will not have complications with our laptops and internet and all. We hope so. Okay. So thank you so much for coming, and then feel free to email us with any questions you may have and practice. All right. Bye. Bye. Oh, I should unmute people. I'm sorry. I should unmute you, all of you. Maybe someone will want to say hi